In this example, we're going to begin to investigate multiplying fractions by multiplying a unit fraction and a whole number. Let's look at the first example. Ebony ate 1/3 of a pizza. The pizza had 12 slices. And then they ask, how many slices did she eat? Okay. So this is our goal. So first let's talk about units. So we've talked about how important it is to know what unit you're referencing when you're working on fraction problems. And here we actually have two different units referenced. So here they talk about 1/3 of a pizza as how much she ate. So when they're talking about 1/3, it's referring to a pizza as the unit. Okay, so here the pizza, we have it cut into 12 pieces, but you can imagine another picture before it's cut, and if somebody cut it into 3 pieces, this would be the fraction of the pizza she had. Okay, it's going to be equivalent to some amount of slices. We don't know how many yet though. And that's exactly what we're trying to find. So they're asking us, how many slices did she eat? So they're changing the unit to slices. Slices is our new unit. Okay, if they said, how much pizza did she eat? The answer would be, well, we already know she ate 1/3 of a pizza. We want to know how many slices are in 1/3 of a pizza that's broken into 12 slices. Okay, so our new unit is just one of these slices, and there's 12 copies of them, and we want to find 1/3 of a copy of that 12. So let's write that, 1/3 of a copy of 12. Okay, and notice this connects right to our multiplication language of copies of. Okay, something to note, as it's said here, 1/3 of a pizza. We could also say we want 1/3 of 12. So if you're asked in a lot of multiplication problems, you'll need to find 5/7 of a number or 6/3 of a number. Usually the language in the problem itself doesn't talk about copies. You'll just see that the word of, which is telling you the fraction or improper fraction of some amount you're finding. Okay, so now let's see how we can do this. So this is multiplication, this is our fraction. There's a few different ways we've thought about this fraction that apply. So let's talk about a few of those. If we say 1/3, we could say 1 for every 3 slices. Okay, so that's one way to think about how many slices she ate. For every 3, here's 3, she ate 1. There's 3, she ate 1, etc. Okay. Another way we can think about it is to think of cut into 3 equal copies, and here I'm going to write the word groups and take one of them. So here the 3 equal copies is referring to the denominator, and the one group or copy we want is referring to the numerator. Now the reason I'm saying groups instead of copies is, remember, we're cutting this into 3 equal pieces, but when it's already cut into 12, it seems weird to say we're cutting it into 3. We want to group these 12s into 3 equal copies. So let's see what that would be. So if we have 12 pieces, and we want to make 3 groups, we would take 12, divide it by 3, and realize that it would be 4 slices in each group. Okay, so I'm thinking of the 3 in the denominator as the number of groups I want, and then, or copies, and then I want to take one of those. Okay, so now let's do this in the picture. Okay, so since I took the 12 and I divided by 3, I know that to break this into 3 equal groups, I would need 4 slices in each group. So let's see how this works out. So here's one group. Here's 2 groups. And here's the 3rd group. So notice we have 1, 2, 3 groups, and we want 1 copy of these 3 groups. So one copy is 4 slices. Okay, so this is the reasoning behind it. We're about to do this symbolically, but I want you to notice, and this is important, taking a third of something, okay, a unit fraction of something, is equivalent to just dividing that something, in this case the 12 slices, by the denominator. Okay, so 1/3 of 12 is the same as 12 divided by 3. We're going to see later we're going to take more copies. We'll need to divide by 3 and multiply by a number. But for now, if you're finding a unit fraction, that denominator is just equivalent to division. So let's see how we do this. We want 1/3 of a copy of 12 is 1/3 times 12. Okay. Now I'm going to put the 12 over 1 just so you could see the process. And notice what we ended up doing is taking the 12 and dividing it by 3. This is equivalent to taking one group of 12, we multiply the numerators, and then we multiply the denominators, and we have 12 over 3. Okay. Simplifying, you could think of, remember, a fraction, this is 12/3, but another way to think of it is division. 12 divided by 3, and this connects to that idea, is 4. Okay, so Ebony ate 4 slices. Okay, just to verify this in one other way, if she had one of every 3 slices, let's just label them 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now let's highlight the one she would have eaten. So let's say she ate the first one out of every 3. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And that corresponds to our results. So the more ways that you can think about this and connect the ideas, the more different application problems you'll be able to use these results with. But our general strategy is that when you're finding a fraction of a whole number, or any number for that matter, you're going to multiply that fraction by the number by multiplying the numerators and then multiplying the denominators and simplifying your result. Let's look at the next one. Okay, Kimber was 20 miles from home. She traveled 1/5 of this distance while listening to her favorite song. Now here's the question. How many miles did she travel while listening to her favorite song? Okay, so again, let's think about the units we're dealing with here. So 1/5 of this distance is referring to the whole trip. Okay, but the question is asking us how many miles did she travel. So our answer is going to be have a unit of 1 mile. So 1 is going to count for 1 mile. Okay, so let's label our number line in miles. Okay, so here it is, 0 to 20. That's her trip. Okay, 1/5 of this distance, so 1 for every 5 miles. Okay, she was listening to her favorite song. So let's think of this as taking our 20 and dividing it into 5 equal parts, and then each equal part would have length 4. Now, so here's 4 miles. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So notice I've just taken the whole of 20 miles and I cut it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal groups of size 4. Okay. For 1 out of these 5, Kimber was listening to her favorite song. Okay. It doesn't matter which 5, and it could have overlapped, but we can just look at 1 here are our 5 groups, and this is 1 out of the 5, which is 4 miles. Okay, so it corresponds to this 4. So again, in terms of our symbolic representation, we're saying 1/5 of 20 miles, that's what we're trying to find, 1/5 of a copy of 20 miles. Well, that means we're going to multiply 1/5 times 20, multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators. We have 20 over 5. Simplify the result. 20 divided by 5 is 4, and our answer is 4 miles. Okay? Just so you know, they always don't turn out as nice as this. You're probably thinking, why can't I just do this? And you can for these problems. However, we're going to start to get to more complex ones, and they're not always going to be whole number answers that are this easy. Let's look at the next question. Logan has a 5-gallon bucket. He fills it 1/4 of the way to the top. Now the question is, how much water is in the bucket? Okay. Now again, let's see what our units are. The 1/4 is referring to this as a unit, the entire bucket. So the unit is the whole bucket. But here, the question is asking how much water is in the bucket, and that's in terms of gallons. So this is the unit of our answer is a gallon. So now we want to break this into 4 equal pieces because we have 1/4. But now we have 5 gallons, and 5 divided by 4. Okay, it's not a whole number like we've gotten in the past. We could say that 5 divided by 4 is 1, remainder 1, okay, or 1 and 1/4. Sorry, that looks a little messy. Okay, and use that general idea. Okay, but let's look at the picture. So we could think of, well, let's use a different pen. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 gallons. So let's take 1 out of 4 of those. We'll take the bottom one. And now for this 5th gallon, we can break that into 4 equal pieces and take 1 out of 4 of those. Okay, so there's our 1 and 1/4 result. Okay, of course this is water, so the water would drip down here and it would be all level. Okay, but that's the basic idea. Okay, so for the algorithm, we want 1/4 of 5 gallons, which is 1/4 times 5 over 1. Okay, and you don't have to put this 1 here, but remember that you're multiplying the top numbers, and then if you don't put a 1 here, it's an implied 1 when you multiply across. So this is 1 times 5 over 4 times 1, which is 5/4 gallons, or 1 and 1/4 gallons.